It's probably my most anticipated release of the year. Wish me luck. And I know that I need to chill, okay? I feel like there's something missing from this book. The reveals that we've actually been waiting multiple books for are proven to be a little bit underwhelming. I have broken down. And I might cry. I am so sick of his dumb victory at this point. Do you see where the math is mathing? If I could reduce this book to one sentence summary, the name of this book would be What the Fuck is Ethan Doing? It's not horrible, but it feels horrible to me. I am very, very excited. I'm also cold and I'm also tired because I got home 3.5 hours ago technically from London, but I've been gone for like nearly 2 weeks. I went to Thailand and then I saw the 1975 in London last night, and I finally got home today, which means that it's finally time for me to start House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J Maas. Now, I did originally say in my TBR that I was going to be reading this next week because I do still have, as you'll probably see in this vlog, I do still have a couple of things that are happening this week. Like the February is wild, guys, honestly, but I cannot wait any longer to read this book. It's probably my most anticipated release of the year. Like, I know I've been shitting on House of Sky and Breath like left, right and center, and I stand by my opinion, but I am nothing if not mass trash. Like, if you've been on the channel for any length of time, you know that. And I'm actually just gonna go straight in with spoilers for this book. I'm not making a non-spoiler vlog. If you happen to be here and you don't want spoilers, then please do leave and come back when you've read this book. But if you are looking for non-spoilery thoughts, I'm just going to mention this in my wrap up. I'm not going to do what I typically do, which is like a regular vlog with non-spoilery thoughts and then a spoiler vlog alongside. We are going balls to the wall spoilers with this book because I just want to binge it. Like, I just want to beast through it. And saying that, I know that I get like anxiety around anticipated releases where I don't want to read them quickly because I don't want them to be over. And with the last book in a trilogy, like, I don't want to know what happens. But I have been dodging spoilers left, right and center for this, and I need to read it so that I'm not scared of the internet again. And the reason why I'm not making non-spoiler content for this is because I'm so sensitive to spoilers, but I want to extend that courtesy to other people where, like, I just ain't mentioning it outside of my wrap up and outside of the spoiler vlog, which if you're here, I imagine you've already read it, so the spoilers are fine. I want to thank you guys because I put like a massive PSA on like Instagram and also Patreon that said, like, don't mention this book to me at all, like, don't even breathe its name because I don't want to know a single thing about it. So I just want to thank you guys who respected that because I want everything to kind of like take me by surprise. I'm really happy that I'm going into this not knowing what anybody thinks about it. I've seen that people have posted spoiler videos, but that is all I've seen. So I'm scared. I'm so nervous. I think I'm going to annotate this because this one is the airport exclusive paperback. I found this in the Chiang Mai airport when I was on my way back from Thailand, and I've already got a hardback copy of this, so I did not need a paperback copy, especially because I imagine that Illumicrate and Fairy Loot are going to make matching editions like of this that match books 1 and 2. But large paperback is my favorite. Like, I love a large paperback, and we don't really have them in the UK. It's not like a standard format at all. These ones you can only really find at the airport, and I believe that Australia also print large paperback. So I had to snatch up this book in my favorite format, and because of that, this is going to be my reading copy. So I'm gonna annotate it a bit. I don't know whether I'm gonna like fully get into it and like highlight it and write it. I actually kind of want to, because I've wanted to do that, or I feel sometimes when I'm reading a book that I do want to do that, and knowing that this is going to be something that like pulls a reaction out of me from the start makes me really want to do it. Don't anticipate me getting through a lot of this tonight, but I've been desperate. Like, I've been carrying this around since Chiang Mai, and when I went to Thailand, like, I left it at home, so it was fine. Like, it was out of the way and I didn't have to think, like, the temptation wasn't there. But since I picked this up in Chiang Mai, like, I've been desperate to read it, and I keep like opening it and like reading a line and being like, oh my god. So what I'm gonna do, I was gonna do a Peloton workout. I'm desperate to get back on the bike, but because I am tired, I'm just gonna give myself a break. I mean, perfectly valid. I literally just got home. I am gonna go shower though. I'm gonna put some cozy pajamas on. I think because when I reread both House of Sky and Breath and Earth and Blood, I listened to the audiobook. For Earth and Blood, I just listened to the audio, and for Sky and Breath, I read along at the same time. I think I am gonna get the audiobook of House of Flame and Shadow because I think, is it Elizabeth Evans? She does like such a good job of narrating it that I really enjoyed that experience. So I'm gonna like read like along with the audio for Flame and Shadow, which is good because like I said, I want to binge this. Whether my brain allows me to, we will see, but if I'm locked into the audiobook, like I tend to be able to read in bigger chunks without breaking focus. So yeah, I'm gonna get myself cozy and I'm gonna dive into this. I can't believe it's actually time. Like, I've been desperate to pick it up, and now that it's here, I'm like low-key procrastinating it, or high-key procrastinating, I guess, because we all know, like, I do this. Like, I put off the things that I actually want. So I still have not started the book, but I wanted to add an extra spoiler warning to this video for essentially all of Sarah J Maas's books, because I know for a fact that I cannot talk about this book in any detail without spoiling ACOTAR, and I also have a feeling that I'm going to be talking at least somewhat about Throne of Glass, although I do not know to what extent, because my main expectations for this book is that it's going to tell me about how all of these worlds are linked together, and Throne of Glass is definitely going to play a part in that. I've already said in like a couple of videos, including like the House of Sky and Breath recap, that I'm pretty sure that the shifters in this world originate from the Fae from Throne of Glass, while the Fae in this world come from the Fae from ACOTAR. I have a whole video on like Maasverse theories that I'll link for you guys if you want to check that out, because my theories for this book are pretty much all of the theories that I had about certain creatures and how the worlds are tied together that haven't been confirmed yet. Like, I'm pretty sure that Fury and Amren are the same kind of creature, and I'm pretty sure, I mean, it's almost confirmed that the Fae came to Midgard from the Dusk Court, which is mysteriously missing in ACOTAR when every other court kind of has a twin. In terms of the plot, I'm assuming that we're all going to save the day somehow. I'm mainly invested in Rune in this one and his romance with the Hind, but I feel like she may play a pivotal role in saving him. I'm mainly concerned about Hunt and Rune, if I'm being honest. I'm anticipating there being way more Rhysand in this book than I want, because the reason why I'm salty about a crossover is because I love this world and these characters so much that I really wish that they'd had their own story before everything else got involved. Because Throne of Glass, like, we have, is it 8 books, 9 books? ACOTAR, if you include the novella, we have 5 just dedicated to those characters and those storylines. Crescent City, we got 1.9 books before Rhysand turned up. And of course it's Rhysand, it couldn't have been anyone else. It couldn't have been Dorian or Chaol or Rowan or Aelin from Throne of Glass. It couldn't have been Elaine or Tamlin. Like, it always has to be Rhysand. And the reason why I'm so salty about Rhysand in particular is because in A Court of Silver Flames, himself and Feyre played a bigger part in that book. Even though it was mainly about Nesta and Cassian, I didn't need this added side tangent about Feyre and Rhysand that we got in that book. So at the minute, I'm feeling like if he could fade into the background a little bit, that would be great. I am hoping that the book mainly focuses on the Crescent City characters, and because of that, I'm hoping that we actually focus on other characters other than Bryce for a larger portion of this book, because I know that Bryce is over in the ACOTAR world right now. I am super hyped because, like, while I've been a little bit critical about House of Sky and Breath, I also know that I'm a massive sucker for Sarah J Maas books. Like, she knows how to write a found family, she knows how to pull on my emotions. Those are, I guess, my theories right now. I'm sure I'll have some more when I actually start reading. Oh, I do think that somebody's gonna die. If I could guess right now who it might be, I don't know about characters from other series. Like, I don't know whether they're going to be safe in this, but if we're talking about just Crescent City characters, I think that Tharion is a good contender for a death, because he's about to do some bad shit. Like, he is about to sell out, is it Ariadne, who is the dragon shifter, for his own ends, because he is desperately trying to escape the River Queen. So at the point where he is at, he's about to do some shady shit, and I think that his redemption could potentially be a big sacrifice. I don't think Hunt or Bryce are at risk. I don't think Rune is at risk either, and those are the ones that I mainly care about, although I am very attached to like Declan and Flynn. Ethan, I don't mind Ethan, but I could care less. So I'm actually gonna start this now. I think I need to stop procrastinating. Wish me luck, please, because I feel like I'm gonna need it. Good morning. I managed to read a grand total of 38 pages of this last night before I fell asleep on my very damp hair. Rhysand has already made an appearance. Chapter 1 was from Bryce's perspective, and we have found out that the ACOTAR version of the Asteri is the Dagon, and my immediate thought was, damn girl, you should have reread A Court of Silver Flames. And that probably would have been a good idea. I knew going into this, and the way that ACOTAR 6 could only be published according to Sarah J Maas after Crescent City 3, I knew that Silver Flames was going to be very relevant to this story. But then at the same time, in my opinion, the plot in A Court of Silver Flames is not the strongest. Nesta's character development, beautiful. Nesta and Cassian, wonderful. Plot, lackluster in comparison to the rest of Sarah J Maas plots. So yeah, I didn't reread that one, but while I have very little recollection of the final points of A Court of Silver Flames, the Dagon being the Asteri of ACOTAR makes me think that I'm right about my theory that the Valg are the Asteri of Throne of Glass. And something that kind of supports that is that the Asteri have taken the bodies of other Vanir, especially the way the Hind described it in the prologue of this one, where she's like, Rigulus has taken the body of this like 12-year-old whatever, and one of them's like a dark-skinned angel. And I remember, once again, just to let you guys know, there are going to be spoilers for every Sarah J Maas book in this video, because I'm about to like reveal a big plot point for Throne of Glass. But in Throne of Glass, the king and one of the dukes have been possessed by the Valg, which is the reason for oppressing the Fae and all of kind of like the bad stuff they do in that series. Actually, like the from what I recall, the depiction of the Valg and the Asteri are very different. Like in my head, the Valg are like black and oily and sludgy, but I feel like the element of possession and the way that the Valg kind of swept through the land and oppressed all of the Fae and kind of froze the magic falls very much in line with the Asteri ethos. So the chances of Throne of Glass characters turning up in here, I would say, is very likely. If I was to hazard a guess at which characters from Throne of Glass we would have had turning up in here, my guesses kind of would have been Manon and Dorian, because they are the ones that have the loosest ends from the Throne of Glass series. They kind of went off to do their own thing. They had purpose, but their character arcs weren't as complete as everybody else's were. But today I don't have anything on. I've left myself like a recovery day after all of my travels to kind of just sit around and do nothing. So my main aim is to blast through a chunk of this. Love is Blind season 6 also starts today. It is also Valentine's Day, so I might play some Baldur's Gate with Curtis. And I have an errand to run. I have a candle to drop off for a friend that asked for one like last minute as a gift, and I need to go and get Brie some dried food because she's running out. So very chill, low-key day, and I am hoping that we're gonna get through a massive chunk of this one. So I got to page 100-ish and I got ready for the day. I emptied all of the clothes out of my suitcases, and I was about to dive back into the book when I remembered that I left a nice little present for myself when I left, and that is that both of my, or two of my insurance policies are running out. One of them is on the 18th and this one is on the 20th. So I need to fix both of these because I'm not a finance girly, okay? So I don't know why this is happening, but my insurance increases this year are wild. Like the pet insurance I have is going up by £130 a year. So that's like £10 a month, which I feel is kind of steep. And then the worst one is my car insurance. So it is it worse? It's not necessarily worse, but my car insurance is very, very cheap, okay? I have been driving, and I've been driving the same car for 8 years now, and my insurance last year was £160. Like, it's crazy cheap. And this year, they've added £100 onto it, like £270. So I don't know why the increases are so steep. I guess it's something to do with maybe the economy, but I'm gonna go ahead and challenge both of these, and I'm gonna do it now because I know it's gonna stress me out, because if I get new policies, I'm gonna have to cancel these policies. Admin is my nightmare. Being on the phone to people while they try and convince me to stay with them is even more of a nightmare, but I'm gonna just get it over with so that I can carry on with my day. But yeah, I've been derailed. I knew that this was coming because I saved it as like a problem for post-holiday me, and now post-holiday me is mad about it. So hopefully I'll get back to my book sometime soon. So I sorted out my insurance, which I'm really glad that I did, because it was definitely going to be something that I procrastinated on for a long time if I didn't. And I also went and ran all of my outside errands, so I'm pretty much ready to settle down and read now. I also finished up my Thailand vlog with a little haul, which is why I got a big stack of things in front of me that need putting away. But when I was out, I accidentally picked up a couple of things, and I know that I need to chill, okay? Like, nobody needs to tell me that I need to chill, but there's a shop in town that kind of like sells things for people. Is it like a consignment store kind of? would be what you call it. But I went past, like they sell like furniture, like little figurines, guitars and other like bits. They also have a couple of jigsaws in there, and I went past and this was in the window. And I'm trying not to buy jigsaws. I'm trying not to buy anything from charity shops at the minute, because I know if something's cheap, I'm like, well, I'm not gonna get it cheap at any other time. So I need to get it right now. And what I'm trying not to do this year is buy books. And I've also bought quite a lot of jigsaws recently that I need to get through. But I went and dropped off the candle at a friend, and I used it because this shop only takes cash. So on the way back, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go in and I'm gonna get it. And then when I went in the shop, I saw that they also had this one. So I've come home with 2 jigsaws. I'm actually, because I'm like in cozy recuperation mode before I like get back to editing videos and stuff tomorrow, I actually really want to start a jigsaw, but I know that I want to like really concentrate on this book. So I want to like read it with my eyeballs as well as the audiobook and not like get stuck into a puzzle. But yeah, that happened. It was an accident. I didn't mean to. I also, it's Valentine's Day today, and Curtis got me a flip top for my Chili's bottle, just because it's more convenient obviously than the screw top when I'm working out. And I've never had a bottle like this before. Like I've had similar, but I feel like I really feel like a baby. And I'm not sure if I enjoy feeling like a baby or not, but I definitely feel like this is giving baby bottle vibes. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but obviously like it is going to be more convenient for my workouts. So I'm gonna go and read for about an hour, I think, and then I'm gonna hop on the bike. I've got a 20-minute low impact ride with Cody and then a 20-minute rock ride with Kendall lined up. I am really excited to get back into my workouts. I was also supposed to be getting back into like nutrition and stuff this week, or I will this week, but today I treated Curtis to lunch because it's Valentine's Day. So there's always tomorrow, but today I am gonna get back on my shit workout wise. And I mean, it's not even hard because I love it so much.
Okay.
So I have made it to page 172, and to be honest, I don't actually have much to check in with you guys about. Like, I feel like this has got off to a much slower start than I anticipated, especially the bits from Bryce's perspective, because I think in terms of this being a crossover, like a lot of this that's currently happening with Bryce is just herself, Nesta and Azriel pursuing whatever it is that her starlight is leading her to in these tunnels, which feels kind of redundant to me as somebody who's read all of the ACOTAR books, like everything that Sarah J Maas has to offer. I do obviously understand that there are people that haven't read all of the Sarah J Maas books, so they don't really know who Nesta and Azriel are, but I don't feel like there's a lot of banter or camaraderie happening, especially because it's like Nesta and Azriel, and they're very distrustful of Bryce. Bryce is very distrustful of them, and it's kind of tedious for me to read, because while it's realistic for them to be distrustful of each other, I know that they're all trustworthy. So it's kind of irritating to see them like not trusting each other and Bryce trying to escape every 10 minutes. And I'm kind of in the mindset right now of like, can we just get on with this portion? Something else that's frustrating me, I think that this was a common complaint that a lot of people had with Throne of Glass actually. And I have to say, like, I didn't really notice back in the day, but I am noticing a lot in House of Sky and Breath, and also for this one, it's happened once already, but that is Bryce apparently doing things without the reader being aware of it. Like how she's cut her hand and Azriel was confused as to why her hands weren't healing, but it's because she's scraping the scabs off to smear the blood along the walls so that the worm will follow them, giving her a chance to escape from Nesta and Azriel. But like, the way it's happening is she's doing this, and like, sure, like the clues are there if you pay attention, but then all of a sudden it's just like Bryce had planned this all along, and it's like, okay, great, amazing. But then on top of that, Azriel and Nesta weren't born yesterday, so they also knew what she was doing all along. And it's a little bit frustrating because I'm like, I don't feel like it's being illustrated that is what's happening. It feels more convenient than thought out, I think, because of the thing that's like the way it's being led up to. And I remember back in the day when Throne of Glass was like super hyped, I remember a lot of people who didn't like it saying that everything was so convenient, how Alien had everything together all of the time. And like I said, I didn't notice it when I was reading Throne of Glass, but it is something that I do remember coming up. So yeah, I feel like I'm trucking along fine so far. It's not like riveting right now, but it's fine. I feel like there's something missing from this book. Like, I feel like my attachment to it isn't there where it has been with the other books in the series. Obviously it's early days, I'm not even a quarter of the way through, so I know it's going to pick up. But right now, I guess I feel similarly about this right now as I felt about Sky and Breath. Like, it's still a Sarah J Maas book, so I'm still somewhat enjoying it, but it feels weird. Like, it doesn't feel like when I reread House of Earth and Blood, I just immediately am in it, and I'm just not in this one right now. So Bryce, Nesta and Asriel have finally kind of reached, I'm assuming, like the end of their path, which is what these tunnels have been leading to all along. And I'm wondering if the reason why there is like Starborn related stuff in ACOTAR, like I obviously know that the Fae came from that world, but I'm wondering if the thing that they're about to find is linked to Thea's daughter, I think it was. I'm pretty sure she had 2 daughters, right? One ended up marrying Peleus and the other one like kind of just disappeared and nobody really knows what happened to her. I've always kind of thought, or like I have been thinking since the end of House of Sky and Breath, that maybe she went back to the world that they're all originally from, and that's why nobody really heard about her. Obviously the Asterion were trying to cover all of that up, which is why nobody talks about Thea at all, but also is potentially why the daughter was forgotten. And obviously, like, if she disappeared into another world, that's definitely something that people like wouldn't remember. So I'm wondering if she maybe, like, after seeing what happened with the Asteri, hid something in the ACOTAR world that would help them figure out what to do with the Asteri. The only other real mystery we still have going on, I guess there's a couple actually. The first is like Hunt's father. I do still feel like it's related to Norse mythology and Thor. However, I don't really know how that fits into the ACOTAR world, especially after Apollyon visited Hunt and said, like, you need to do what your father made you to do. And Hunt is confused because obviously, like, he never knew who his father was. And then the other main mystery I feel we have going on that's been threaded through since House of Earth and Blood is the oracle prophecy that Rune was given that said that he would be the end of his bloodline. I think because I think the prophecy is like the end of the royal bloodline. I think that that's actually more linked to the end of royalty in Crescent City than it is to like Rune dying or anything. Like, I'm not scared of Rune dying. I really just don't foresee it. Watch me like be completely fooled and blindsided by it now. But that's not one of my predictions. I feel like he's going to abolish the monarchy, and that will be potentially like the end of the royal bloodline and the fulfillment of that prophecy, because we've already seen how prophecies can be interpreted differently in this series, with Cormac, who thought that they had to get married to fulfill like the prophecy that Cormac had, when really it was something like much less innocuous than that. So we'll see. I think we're going back to like Hunt and Rune now, which is really frustrating because we're about to see what's behind this door, but hopefully it's something good.
Child's pose for 30 seconds to check in, taking a deep inhale. I mean, right now, listen to the knees. How are the ankles feeling?
Hello, I am in my pajamas because I'm going out tonight. For one, I'm going to see State Champs Mayday Parade and Simple Plan in Leeds, and after getting out of my workout clothes, I didn't want to put clean clothes on for like a couple of hours just to then change them again. So we're back in pajamas for that reason, but also because I haven't been feeling too great today, like energy level wise. So I had grand plans of editing a Patreon video, which I did manage to do, and also editing my Thailand vlog, which I have got everything imported into the timeline, but sadly, like, I am just gonna have to let that go until tomorrow, because when I feel like this, as well as feeling like generally fatigued, I also have like a level of anxiety that comes along with it as well. So because I have to go out tonight, I don't want to like make myself push through it and then feel shit and not be able to go out tonight. So I've chosen comfort. I've put my uni back on. I've made myself a cup of strawberry and chocolate tea, which is my favorite from Bird and Blend. It's the Pancake Day exclusive actually, so they might currently have it in stock when you're watching this. But I'm gonna get some reading done for at least an hour before I start to get ready. I'm 20 chapters in. I'm on page 204. The last chapter that I read last night, I've been going to bed very early as well. Actually, I went to bed at 9 p.m. last night. I'm truly trying to catch up on some sleep apparently. But the last chapter that I read was essentially an info dump from, is it Selene, who is the daughter of Thea, and we found out essentially like how the Fae, or why the Fae went from the ACOTAR world to Midgard. I wish we knew the world name for ACOTAR as well, so that, because Prithian is obviously like the country, not the actual world, but we found out why they went. We also found out that Thea was not this like beautiful benevolent Fae queen that we, I guess, assumed that she was, with Peleus being like the villain of the story. So I do feel like that does line up with the way that Fae like generally behave. So I actually might revisit the last chapter before I continue on, because it was essentially a massive info dump. But I think that I am right, and that the reason why all of this stuff is in this room is because Selene, after she disappeared from Midgard, ended up back here where she put the harp on the pedestal for Bryce to eventually find, I'm assuming. And that's the reason why everyone in Midgard forgot about her, and how also all of the information made it back to the origin world of the Fae. So I feel like at this point we're starting to get into something. I'm not really vibing with the whole like Viper Queen fighting ring situation we have going on. Like, I don't care about Ethan and Tharion and the fighting for everyone's freedom that they're doing in this circle. But I do feel like at least the Bryce storyline is picking up a little bit. And when are we going to get back to Midgard? That's what I want to know, because my main worry with this book is that Bryce will spend so much time here when I want her in Midgard. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, because I don't know, but I'm hoping that that isn't the case and that she returns at least sometime soon. Okay, so like, hold on one second, because I'm on page 219 and Selene is still going off on like her epic info dumpy monologue of everything that has ever happened. And we've kind of had, it's not necessarily confirmation, but like it's 99% confirmed that the other Fae, like the Shifters, are the Throne of Glass Fae, and that's where they came from. So we've had the point in the timeline where they also entered Midgard, but the whole time that Selene has been doing this thing, like since they found the chamber under the prison where like this hologram appeared, it reminded me of two things. One is Horizon Zero Dawn, which is all I'm going to say about that. If you played that game, you'll get the reference. If not, you should play it because the storyline is very, very good. The second thing it reminded me of is the Ancient Queen in Throne of Glass. I think she's called Elena, and she appears to Aelin like very early on, and she essentially like info dumps history and stuff to Aelin pretty much constantly and sends her on this like quest to right ancient wrongs. And I'm pretty sure that I have mentioned in this video that I'm confident that it's likely that the Astarion, the Throne of Glass world, would be the Vald. But now we're getting to this point here where Thea is opening a portal and she's telling her children, Selene and Helena, to leave. And now I've just realized, because I'm thinking about how much this info dump is like Helena, that Helena is Elena with an extra letter added on. And without actually going back and like confirming points in the timeline on Throne of Glass, like I can't say for sure whether it's likely that they're the same person. That being said, I'm pretty sure that if I read on if they are the same person, it is going to become clear pretty soon. But now at this point, I'm wondering if when Selene left and went back to the ACOTAR world and left all this stuff for Feyre, whether Helena actually potentially ended up, because I can't remember in like House of Sky and Breath, I can't remember what they said happened to Helena. So did she end up in the Throne of Glass world? Is she Helena? Is this real? Am I making shit up? Only time will tell. night before I went out, I got to the end of part 1 where Bryce opens a portal and returns to Midgard. I put that in quotations because I'm not convinced that that is actually where she's heading. I feel like hell might be the next stop on her list. Accidentally, of course, because I feel like she's trying to get back to Midgard. But because she didn't really learn very much from ACOTAR, I feel like she might go to hell also to confront Adis on how horrible Thea ended up being. I don't know whether I'm happy that she's left the ACOTAR world now, because I'm happy if she actually, like, that's it and she doesn't go back there and she carries on. And then we pick up in like ACOTAR 6 and Nestor and Asriel are like, well, that was weird. But I feel like she's going to need the Dread Trove. I feel like the Dread Trove is integral to the Asteri, and so that's going to be something that's relevant. So I'm not sure if like Asriel or Nestor are going to follow her through her portal and end up wherever it is that she does. So it is about 8:30 a.m. I have my laser hair removal appointment, should I say, at 9:45. I think this one is my 5th session, and I'm currently at a point like where I only shave like twice in between sessions, which is like every 5 weeks, which is much better than every other day. So I have that at 9:45, so I'm going to read for probably about 40 minutes, get ready and get onto that, and then I'm going to be editing my Thailand vlog for the rest of the day. So let's see what the next 40 or so pages holds and where Bryce actually does end up. I'm looking kind of rough and I feel like I only just realised it, but I'm about to do my Saturday afternoon workout, which is a 45-minute bike boot camp with Miss Callie Gullickson. But I have just gotten past the halfway mark in House of Flame and Shadow, and I have to say, like, I feel like the reveals that we've actually been waiting multiple books for are proven to be a little bit underwhelming. Things like Jessica's origins, like, I'd pretty much put it together that like it was very, very possible that she was one of the priestesses of the, is it the Library of Pathos? But having that like confirmed in just like Ethan literally just asked her and she told him, felt really underwhelming. And I don't know whether it's me or whether just the way that the information has been delivered in this book is like a little bit lackluster. Bryce is continuing also to do the thing where like she knows what's going on and has outsmarted everybody. Most recently illustrated with the Autumn King, where she's like kind of let him hold her hostage, like she turned up in his study on purpose so that she could get the information she wanted and then leave. I will say though, I do think one thing that did shock me a little bit was that the Hind has kids, and the reason why it shocked me, I guess, is because it literally came from nowhere. Like there was no hint about it. I don't know how I feel about the fact that she has kids is the reason why she's changed her attitude and decided to become a rebel instead of being like the big bad hind that she's always been. Just because like it does feel like it's come out of nowhere, and I feel like it would have been better had she just realized the error of her ways and changed her mind. And she actually confronts that in an argument with Rune where she says like, don't be nice to me because I'm a mother. Like, if you had issues with me apparently just changing my mind and choosing the right side, you shouldn't sympathize with me because I have like a tragic backstory. And actually I sympathize with her less for her tragic backstory, because I feel like it's more admirable for somebody to realize the error of their ways off their own back and decide to make changes than it is to have 2 kids and decide that you want to build like a better world, you know? Something that I do see coming, I've seen it coming for a little while, but I feel like it will further being pushed in that direction, is Ethan becoming the prime of the wolves. Because when he killed Sigrid, I think, was it the Viper Queen, questioned him and was like, why, or was it Jessica that was like, why do you want to bring her back? Like, why are you doing this? And I think that's because he essentially challenged her and he won, which if Sigrid was to become the prime of the wolves, him having challenged her and one proves his strength, therefore he has a claim to be the prime. And that's further being illustrated where Jessica is saying the Fendirs have always been the chosen of the Asteri, like bloodhound abilities have been bred into their line, and Danica was a bit too big for her boots and a bit too strong, which is why she ended up being killed. And I feel like everything's kind of pushing towards Ethan becoming the prime. Now I gotta say, I don't care about Ethan at all. I liked him at parts throughout House of Sky and Breath, but like I feel like his storyline is just not interesting when there's bigger shit going on. And I understand that like potentially he's going to be the prime of the wolves and he's going to like bring a better life to the wolves, like less oppression, like not a horrible ruler. But I don't care. Like I don't care that much. And I do feel though that we do have threads that have been introduced throughout this series that have currently just been dropped completely. So aside from the fact that Bryce has a picture folded up in her phone case, we have had no mention of Juniper, No mention of Fury. We are supposed to believe that Pippa Spetsos just died in the lab blast that Cormac brought about at the end of Sky and Breath. Like, I haven't seen her body. Like, nobody's said for sure that she's dead. So I'm expecting her to just like kind of turn up at some point, especially because we have had no confirmation. And I feel like if she doesn't turn up at some point, what was her purpose? Like, why was she just introduced in book 2 to die in book 2? And aside from bring Ophion to the forefront with this Thunderbird storyline, which also went nowhere, what was the point in Pippa? I'm hoping, like, Sarah J Maas for me is known for weaving all of these tiny little threads together. So I feel like if we get to the end of this book and like these things still have gone nowhere, what is the point? Especially like, where is Fury? Fury is this big badass mystery creature that has like untold amounts of power. I feel like we need her in this fight. So this is going to be a brief one because I am once again heading out. Another day, another gig, no rest for the wicked, you know what I'm saying? I'm off to see the 1975 in Manchester. It's like a 2-hour drive each way, and I'm not going to the gig on my own, but I am driving there and back on my own. So I've like slept in this morning to be prepared because I'm only going to get back at like 1:30 in the morning. But this morning, before I did start getting ready, I did read a little bit more of this. I am approaching the end stretch now. I'm 546 pages into it, and I'm currently at the point where Bryce and Hunt are communing with hell, and we found out that Hunt is he was made by the princes of hell. They haven't exactly gone into the logistics of that yet, which I'm assuming they're going to. I do feel like that is another underwhelming reveal though, like, because I feel like it came out of nowhere. I guess there's been hints to it because the Princes of Hell have been very invested in him for a long time, but I feel like it didn't like surprise me or shock me in a way that like I'm accustomed to with Sarah J Maas reveals. And I do feel like that is the theme of this book. I don't know whether I've just read so much from this author that I kind of take everything in my stride, although I do feel like the last 3 books, House of Sky and Breath, ACOTAR, Silver Flames, and this one have not been to the usual standard that I expect from Sarah J Maas. And like I said, like, I don't know if it is me or whether there is some sort of intangible difference with these last 3 published books. I am at the minute getting a little bit tired with the arguing between Bryce and Hunt. I feel like that she is being very insensitive of the fact that this is like same old for him. Like, he has already been part of a rebellion that has failed. He's been punished for it for many, many years. He's suffered like unbelievable, unthinkable torture, and he's also very recently had to go through that again, having already known that joining a rebellion was a bad idea. And Bryce is constantly at him because he's not giving 110% to this cause. And it's all very well and good being idealistic and wanting to save the world and save everybody, but like, humans are inherently selfish, and I know that they're not human, but it is perfectly acceptable, especially after what he's faced, to not want to rebel, like to want safety for the people around him and himself, as opposed to wanting to liberate the world and possibly die in the process and watch everybody that he loves dies. And I feel like Bryce is being very insensitive to this and is constantly just like, why do you not have my back? Why do you not want to be here? Why are you not giving 110%? And like, let's be real, she's 25. She has lived literally just 25 years, and he's like, how old? Like 500 or something. So he's been around the block a few times, and his trips around the block have not been fun. And she's coming in like fresh-faced at 25, like fighting in her first rebellion, being just really, really callous about it. So I'm really not enjoying that is a constant recurring argument that they have going on. And I do feel like at this point in the series, I don't feel like we need added tension in the relationship. I feel like this constant argument between them doesn't actually have a place in the story apart from to create tension in the relationship, because I feel like his reluctance is very understandable, and for her to be at him about it is not necessarily out of character, but like doesn't need to be part of this book. You know, because I'm going to be out so late tonight, and because before I went to Thailand I pre-filmed pretty much all of my content, I'm really on top of my shit. So my plan for tomorrow is going to probably be to finish this book. I've got about 5 hours left of the audio. I'm going to take it easy tomorrow. I feel like I've not to get into it too much, but anxiety wise, I've been making myself miserable, and I need a self-care day. So tomorrow I'm just going to kind of allow myself to do things that I enjoy and really just kind of like not resign myself to it, but soak up the comforting vibes or something, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, tomorrow we'll see if we can finish this one. I feel kind of similarly about this as I did about Sky and Breath at the minute, where I feel like we have to reach a crescendo soon, because I feel like the pacing has been very, very slow up to this point, which is not really what I expect from like book 3 in a series. I thought that it would be more fast-paced, more high stakes from the beginning, and so far I haven't really felt that. I'll give you guys the full information when I get home, whenever that might be, but in a plot twist that nobody anticipated, I may not actually make it to the 1975 because I have broken down. I've been here about 2 hours now. I'm waiting for rescue. My dad is coming to try and fix my car. Long story short, and I will probably give you the long story, but I've blown the cap off my engine coolant. So Curtis is coming with a new cap. My dad is coming to try and remove an airlock out of my car. And Ryan is on his way because Manchester is the only arena in the world that still uses paper tickets. So they're coming to get the tickets. If my car's fixed, maybe I'll make it to the gig. If it can't be fixed or it takes too long, I guess I'm going home, which I've made my peace with it. But I am kind of sad because I've actually never missed a 1975 show in Manchester. Like, I've missed individual dates, but I've been to Manchester on every single tour since that album was released in 2013. And I'm kind of sad that I'm going to be breaking that streak, but I've also like kind of made my peace that like this may not come together for me today, and I have a whole team of people trying to make it happen, but we'll see what the future holds. I'm awake. I feel like I'm dead, but I am awake. I did make it to the show last night. Curtis provided the cap that I needed, and my dad got all of the air out of my system, and my car made it to Manchester and back. It was a big leap of trust on my part, like actually driving it to Manchester and back, but I've had that car for 8 years now. It's the first car that I ever had, and I still have it. She is looking a little worse for wear on the outside, but honestly, one of the most reliable cars I have ever seen in my life. She cost me very little in repairs, and it's not a new car either. Like, it's a 2007 reg. So we made it, and the show was great, but now I have a headache that I've woken up with, and if I wake up with it, I know it's going to stick around for the majority of the day. I also have a really sore jaw because when I drive, I chew a lot of gum. I mean, it was a 4.5 hour drive without me being broken down for 2 hours, so that is a lot of gum that was chewed, and now my jaw is aching. So as I said yesterday, today I am doing a lot of nothing. I'm wearing the coziest clothes possible. I have my favorite blanket across my lap. And I don't know if I can finish this, guys. It is 5 hours in audio, but I'm gonna get through as much as I possibly can and see if we can make it to the end today. So wish me luck, because I feel obviously like the closer we get to the end, the spicier things are gonna become in terms of like plot content, not romance, but maybe romance as well, because there's actually been, I feel, very little romantic content in this one for a Sarah J Maas book, although that is kind of more typical when it comes to like the last books in her series. So that's my plan, a good old lazy day. I'm here for it. I'm looking forward to it. Aside from the fact that I feel like shit, today's gonna be a good day. I'm actually low-key upset that the Autumn King has died. I'm glad that it's Rune that's done it, and I did have a feeling that like part of the fulfillment of his prophecy about being the end of the royal bloodline would be because he killed his father. Of course, obviously that doesn't actually end the bloodline because he's alive and Bryce is alive, but I was wondering, or have wondered for a long time, if that would tie into it at some point. I'm sad about it though, because I always thought that he was going to be redeemable in the end, because we see glimmers of him being not terrible throughout the last 2 books. I thought that that was going to culminate in some element of like sacrifice for Bryce or Rune, and we've gone like in a completely different direction with actually no, like he has done unexcusable things in the past and he continues to be a massive asshole, which has culminated in him and Marvin meeting, ambushing everybody in the Cave of Princes, and Bryce and Rune like taking them down. So I am definitely glad that it's Rune who was the one who killed him, because obviously the Autumn King abused him when he was a child, and I feel like Rune being the person to do that instead of Bryce sweeping in and doing it was like the right choice. But I did really think that he was going to have a moment of not necessarily full redemption, because he has done awful things in the past, but a moment where he proved not to be wholly horrible, you know? So I know earlier I said that I feel like Ethan is being prepped to become Prime of the Wolves, and I do still think that we're probably on that track, but I also hope that it doesn't happen, because I am so sick of his dumb bitchery at this point. The only good thing that I can say about Ethan right now is that at least he does not break character, because he is literally on the dumbest like fool's errand every fucking second of this book, and he keeps breaking away from everybody else, which is just really irritating, because he signs on to missions. Like he did it, was it at the end of House of Sky and Breath, where everybody was going to the Crystal Palace to see, I hate saying Crystal Palace because that's the name of a UK football team, but everyone was going to the Crystal Palace and he was like, yeah, sorry, I gotta go. So he went and got Sigrid. He then killed her. Now he's desperate to resurrect her. He said that he'll help Hypaxia with the antidote, which she's now done, and I guess he's supposed to be helping to distribute it, and he's like, nah, I'm off to tell the wolves that they can have anybody else as Prime, because they should. But he doesn't want to step up to fill this role, but he wants somebody else to do it, even if it's a Reaper, which literally makes no sense. And if you ask me, Sigrid is not somebody who I would trust with being the leader of the wolves. She's not very nice, and she doesn't seem to want to take up this role anyway. I know House of Sky and Breath also ended with her opening her eyes in the tank, where he's outside of the tank like begging her to come with him. I don't know why she did, because she doesn't seem to want to be there. And before, like in House of Sky and Breath, when he was talking to her and telling her like, you should come with me, she didn't want to go then. I have no idea like why she ended up outside of the tank, except for to potentially propel Ethan into the role of Prime. But I don't think he's equipped. I think he's a bumbling idiot. So, shooker. I am shooker. Sabine literally stabbing the Prime of the Wolves through the face with the sword. That did not see that coming. We finally reached a point in this book where I am genuinely shocked. I don't know. I'm sad about the Fendir sword being broken though, because that's like an heirloom, you know. It's also like Danica's weapon, a symbol of Danica, and Ethan he shattered it, but it seems like it's on Ethan versus Sabine. I mean, is Ethan technically the strongest wolf? Who knows, because Sabine hasn't had the antidote, and I still don't really support him. Like, they always say that the best leaders are the ones that don't want to lead. But I feel like Ethan's trajectory from the beginning has been a series of mistakes that he tries to fix, but makes everything worse as he tries to fix it, to then try and fix the thing that he'd made worse and just continually make everything progressively worse into infinity. So he's not the kind of leader that like I want, but also like I feel like what he's focusing on is such a small part of this book. Like, Bryce is trying to save the world. She's trying to save the mayor. She's trying to save the Fae, the humans, the shifters, literally everyone. And Ethan's just running around trying to save the wolves, but doing it very badly. So I'm really excited to see this showdown between Sabine and Ethan, but like I'm not like Ethan was not my favorite character, and I feel like I gave Ethan and Tharian the benefit of the doubt in House of Sky and Breath, because Bryce obviously hopped off world, so I was like, okay, with Ruin and Hunt imprisoned, we're gonna need characters to hold down the fort, which to me, that was what Ethan and Tharian were going to be. But in this book, they continue to just bumble around being the worst. I don't know. I'm interested to see where their characters end up by the end of this book, but I'm not the biggest fan of either of them, if I'm being honest. So I'm about to throw a spanner in the works of me finishing House of Flame and Shadow today. I have like 195 pages left, which in terms of the audiobook, I've bumped it up a little bit because I noticed like as long as there's no info dumps or like big paragraphs of information, then with me reading along physically at the same time, like I can comfortably listen to it and read along at 2.4 times speed. So I've got 2 hours and 50 minutes left of the audio, which is still doable today. It's only 3 p.m. but I really wanted to start a puzzle, so I'm going to be pausing on reading for a while. Technically I could listen to the audiobook while I'm doing my puzzle, but I feel like the boat has left on that now, because I'm at the point where the plot's going to start ramping up, I assume, with like 200 pages left. So I'm going to really want to like focus on the book. So I'm gonna listen to a different audiobook while I do a puzzle, and the one that I've picked this time is, what's it called? Cats in the Craft Room. It's one of the Linda Jane Smith ones that I like. I need to stop buying puzzles as well, because I'm pretty sure it is in this vlog, isn't it, that I showed you 2 puzzles that I've got like this week. I had a look because I've just been into the cupboard where I store my puzzles, which is like the top shelf of my closet, and I've took some of the puzzles that I haven't done out and put some of the ones that I've done recently in, because with my bedroom being renovated, like life is a mess essentially upstairs. Don't even want to talk about it. But I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, including this one, I have at least 13 puzzles that I haven't done, and they're all either Linda Jane Smith ones or Disney ones. And honestly, like the 2 that I bought this week was a mistake. It was an accident, okay? If they weren't in the window of the shop, I never would have gone in and found them, all right? So I do need to, but in general, because I'm trying not to buy that many books this year, I'm just trying to stay out of charity shops in general, because that is honestly my weakness. But let me know actually, because I've done this spoiler vlog a little bit differently than I normally do, because I'm not making any non-spoilery content for House of Flame and Shadow. Like normally I do a weekly vlog, which would be like a regular vlog, and then spoilers alongside it, which would pretty much just be clips of me talking about the book. I've obviously done this one a little bit differently. Like I've put the regular weekly vlog content mixed amongst the spoilers, so let me know how you like that. I obviously, like, I'm not going to do this format I think for every spoiler vlog I do going forward, but let me know how you've liked this one, so I know. Feedback is always, I say feedback is always appreciated. If I ask for it, yes. If I don't ask for your feedback, then mind your business, essentially. But yeah, I'm gonna crack on with the puzzle. Probably I'll do like an hour and then maybe go back to House of Flame and Shadow. I just couldn't, I have a free day. I've given myself a free day, and a free, like, lazy day is not complete without starting a puzzle in my mind. Good morning. I have ticked 2 of the 3 things I had to do today off my to-do list already. So I'm taking a little bit of a HOFAS break. I will say that the thing that I have yet to do that was on my to-do list is the longest thing, which is to edit this vlog up to date. I currently have like over an hour of footage, so I'm assuming that it's a long one. But I thought I had 2 hours left on this. I have 2 hours. Oh, wait a minute, actually, I haven't set it to the right speed because I've been listening to Wheel of Time. I have 2 hours and 13 minutes left of this, so I guess my plan is to read about an hour of it now, crack on with editing this vlog, and then come back and finish it off probably this evening. I'm on page 682. I really enjoyed the showdown between Celestina and Hunt, because the fact that she betrayed them at the end of the last book like still makes me really angry. Like, obviously there's characters in here that have done way worse things, especially because she did it because she felt that she had to, but there's just like, I'm a Taurus, guys, so anybody who is disloyal, who betrays you, who proves that they are not worth your trust, literally the darkest depths of evil to me. So I really appreciated that they had a showdown. The part of me that's vengeful really wishes that Hunt had killed her. Obviously I understand good triumphs all, so he's not just going to murder her for such like a relatively minor infraction compared to some of the things that other people have done in the book. I am sad that the Harpy's already dead, just because I feel like when we were approaching, is it Nenya, this area, and they were talking about how she'd been resurrected and the fact that she was like so quick, which I'm wondering if that's because when she's resurrected she doesn't have the parasite, so she has the agility that she would have if there was no parasite to begin with. But like, I obviously expected her to be a little bit more of a challenging foe to defeat, so the fact that Bryce has literally just got the mask and put it to use and killed the Harpy immediately feels a little bit anticlimactic, but I am excited to see what happens next. Ethan is also now Prime of the Wolves. I still don't think he deserves it, and I feel like knocking out all of these leaders that are keeping the Asteri in power, I feel like it makes sense to get rid of them all and then topple the Asteri and like have a whole new world and a whole new government essentially. But I do feel like it feels pretty rapid fire. But then on the flip side of that, Ethan taking so long to get rid of Sabine, like that being pretty much his entire storyline of this book, does also feel like a bit much when everybody else is focusing on bigger things. So those are my thoughts on the last little bit that I've read since I updated you. If I'm reading an hour now, I'm assuming it's going to be about 70 pages, but things should be heating up pretty soon, so I don't know if I'm ready. We'll find out, I guess. So Ethan has just summoned Connor, or the Underking has just summoned Connor for Ethan to speak to, and I might cry. Like, Connor is the one character like from that I never knew. He's like my Rhaegar Targaryen. If you guys weren't around when I was reading Game of Thrones, like I am obsessed with Rhaegar. Like, I want George R.R. Martin to write me a fantasy romance prequel about Rhaegar Targaryen, which is all I'm gonna say, because like I don't want to spoil Game of Thrones for you, but Connor is the one for me. It's like the one that got away kind of situation, which has made me latch onto him. This could be emotional, but the reason why I'm actually checking in is because the Underking just said that he's from the Throne of Glass world essentially, which I feel like this is the first almost confirmation we've got that the Shifter world is Throne of Glass, even though in my opinion it was pretty obvious, because he said that in his world Erd was known as Word, and the gates or the portals in Throne of Glass are called Word gates, which I think I said in my theory video that the portals or the Word gates in Throne of Glass were potentially portals between worlds, because I'm pretty sure that at least some of them connect to hell. But is the Underking a Valg? Because I know that the Valg have to be relevant to this somehow. Like, are the Valg the Asteri? Are the Valg from hell? Is the Underking Valg? Like, where does that come into this? And something actually that I meant to tell you in the last update, but I completely forgot, it was like the main reason for me actually filming an update as well, is that there is a massive loose end that I'm waiting to come into play. And it reminded me when Hunt met up with Isaiah and Naomi again, because Vic is still at the bottom of the trench in a box. And there is no way that that is not going to be relevant at some point. And I know that there's going to be like spin-off books to Crescent City following like a different plot line or different characters, so it could become relevant then. But like, for me, Sarah J Maas never leaves a loose end. Like, I feel like we're potentially going to have more loose ends in this series, or like side characters always amount to something in Sarah J Maas books, and I feel like we have a lot of side characters in this series that are literally just there to support and don't necessarily or won't necessarily contribute anything to the grand scheme of the plot. But Vic is still in that box, and if you guys need a refresher, Vic is the, what is she? She's a spirit that was trapped in a body of an angel. She's not like a sprite. I'm gonna look at my House of of Earth and Blood recap and see if it says what she is. Wraith. Vic is a Wraith, and they put her in a box in Crescent City when they found out of Hunt, Vic and Justinian's betrayal. The Archangels put Vic in a box and dropped her in the bottom of a trench, so she's still there. And they say that the trench is so deep that like she could never be found, but that's just like a massive loose end to me that I feel has to come into play at some point. Wait a damn minute. Is Lydia related to Aelin? Is she from the same line? Because she named her son Bran, which is short for Brannon, which I'm pretty sure is the name. Like, this is completely going off my memory as well. And the last time I read a Throne of Glass book was in 2018. But I'm pretty sure that one of the ancient kings, is it the Human King from Throne of Glass, was King Brannon? Like I said, I literally could be making that up. But she also has firepower, and Aelin can't shift because I think it's because, was it because she was so young when like the magic was shut off? Or does she shift between human and fae? Is that how she shifts? I can't remember. Like I said, it's been a long time, but Lydia has this like ridiculous firepower. She also shifts into a deer, and the symbol of Terrason is a stag. Do you see where the math is mathing? Like I said, those like the evidence that I've just pulled could literally have come from nowhere. Like, it might not even be true, but that is where my brain is at right now. So I finished House of Flame and Shadow, and I am very sad to report that my final verdict on this one is that it is pretty mid. In my opinion, I'm really disappointed with this one. I've yet to decide whether I prefer this one to House of Sky and Breath. I feel like I do slightly, but I definitely feel like I'm more disappointed by this one than I am with House of Sky and Breath, because this one is the final book in a series. So while I don't know if I did enjoy it more than House of Sky and Breath, you know, because in that one, there were reveals that like I was literally shook by, that I didn't see coming, like things that took my breath away. And this just underwhelmed me at every single turn. At this point, I don't think that Sarah J Maas has written a book to her typical standard since House of Earth and Blood, and it will eternally disappoint me because House of Earth and Blood is literally my favorite book of all time. Even on reread, like it still hits, and I cannot pinpoint, like I could not put my finger on what is missing from these books exactly, but I just know that it's a feeling. They do not feel the same when I'm reading them, and I could tell you like lots of things that I didn't like about this, but I don't know what it is specifically that makes this and House of Sky and Breath and ACOTAR Silver Flames feel so much different to any of her other books that I've read. And I feel like I'm not the only one who's feeling this way. I obviously can't confirm because I've avoided all content surrounding this book, but I don't think it's just me. Like, I don't think it's a me problem. I do think that there is something very different about these last three books, or something missing that's not making them hit the same as literally the other, like, how many books is it, like 12 books that she's written in the past. So there were things that I really enjoyed about this one, especially as we came to the end. I think one of my favorite parts of this book was watching everybody level up as they got the antidote for the parasite, and like finally like coming into their powers and realizing all they can achieve, because I don't think it was obvious at the beginning of the series like how weak everybody is in comparison to all of the other fae that Sarah J Maas has written in the past, which I mean makes sense because we didn't know for sure that they were connected at the beginning. But I really enjoyed seeing people come into their power. I really enjoyed the hints that we had towards Throne of Glass, but because of that I am a little bit disappointed that we didn't get any cameos from Throne of Glass characters. We started to lean in that direction, and it is really odd to me because Sarah keeps throwing it back to ACOTAR constantly, and one good thing that I can say about this book is that I'm glad that Rhys didn't play as much of a part in this as I kind of thought he was going to going into it. Like, his role was definitely minimal, which does beg the question, like, why is the last line essentially of House of Sky and Breath Rhysand? Like, it feels like a bait to pull you into this book for the Akamath girlies, because he really played no part in this story at all, which I'm really glad about, but it just feels very odd that he was the main hook for the ACOTAR storyline at the end of Sky and Breath. But like I said, Sarah keeps throwing it back to ACOTAR, and I know it's because the series isn't finished, but also now that I've read this and I know how tied to A Court of Silver Flames this is, I would potentially argue that A Court of Silver Flames only really exists to support the Crescent City series, because I said when I read Silver Flames, like, this plot feels so small compared to any other Sarah J Maas plot that I've read, including the Crescent City plot. The plot of A Court of Silver Flames is so small. Like, the character progression is some of my favorite character progression that I've read across the arc of like one book with Nesta's arc. I do really like the romance because I've always loved Cassian, but the plot is so weak and so minor compared to the like sweeping intricate plots that I've always come to expect from Sarah J Maas. So while the Throne of Glass series is finished and ACOTAR isn't, you could argue that ACOTAR could have been finished if Sarah didn't want to create this like multiverse, which makes me believe that potentially we're going to get more installments from Throne of Glass in the future. I feel like if we were going to have an ACOTAR part of this book, which we definitely did, I feel like we should have definitely had something Throne of Glass related in here as well, in terms of cameos from characters or something like that. In terms of the crossover, it's not as bad as I thought it was. The characters didn't play as big a part as I thought they would, or that I was worried that they would in here, so I'm definitely happy about that. But I do think that the crossover was hyped up to be more than it needed to be, and I do feel like Azriel and Nesta took up more page time in here than they needed to, because obviously we got some answers about the Asteri, we got Truth Teller, we borrowed the mask from Nesta, but aside from swapping weapons between worlds and gathering that like kernel of Thea's power, I just feel like the first however many hundreds of pages it was set in the ACOTAR world wasn't necessary, but like a whole lot of this book felt tedious. And I have just said how like A Court of Silver Flames has such a small plot in comparison to any other plot I've read from Sarah J Maas. This plot feels messy. This plot feels like there's so many loose ends. It feels like there are things left that kind of went nowhere, and I know that we are going to get spin-offs in this world. I'm very aware that Vic is still at the bottom of the trench, and I'm very aware that Sigrid kind of just wandered off and we never revisited that. So I feel like there is potential for a House of Many Waters spin-off that would potentially feature Tharian and Ethan. If I could reduce this book to one sentence summary, like if I renamed it and gave it a literal name, the name of this book would be What the Fuck is Ethan Doing? Because I feel like such a large part of this book was him running around trying to fix problems that he had made, but only making more problems instead. Like, reading Ethan's perspective was like reading about one of my own anxiety spirals, as he tries to make everything better but instead makes everything worse. And I actually hope that we don't get a Tharian and Ethan spin-off, because I feel like their plot has been dead-ending since it began. Like, I gave them the benefit of the doubt in House of Sky and Breath and was like, okay, like, they're gonna go somewhere in book 3, which is why we had to spend so much time with them in House of Sky and Breath, even though it felt tedious. But following Ethan especially never felt any less tedious, and while I didn't mind Ethan in House of Sky and Breath, I actually don't like him now because I'm sick of him. Like, I feel like he was focusing on such a small part of the plot, because we're going to talk about the conveniences in the plot, okay? And one of the conveniences that we have in this is that all of the main cast of characters we know have all ended up being the representatives or the heads of all of the different creatures in Midgard. So we have Hypaxia is now the House of Flame and Shadow head, even though we haven't resolved the fact that she was Queen of the Witches, and that was kind of just thrown in like, oh my god, no, they overthrew me. We have Bryce, who is the head of the Fae, and one thing that I do really like is that she stepped down from that and kind of is trying to instill a democracy, because I didn't like the direction that that was going in with her being queen. Isaiah is going to be leading the Angels because Hunt turned it down. Ethan is the Prime of the Wolves, and we just have so many people in influential places, and the way that that all slipped into place really conveniently, yet we had to follow Ethan along every step of the way for what? Because his plot with Sigrid dead-ended, and it actually felt like Sarah potentially changed her mind, and instead of raising Sigrid to be the head of the Prime of the Wolves, she decided that it was going to be Ethan as well. So we had to like get rid of Sigrid somehow, because everything that she did kind of felt out of character from the Sigrid that we met in House of Sky and Breath. Like, it literally didn't feel like the same person. And talking about people acting out of character, Nestor and Asriel did not feel like Nestor and Asriel. Like, when I'm reading Sarah J Maas books, like, I am very familiar with the characters at this point, and they just felt weird. Like, they felt like they were in the wrong place. They did not feel right at all. In terms of conveniences, we had the soul transfer between Bryce and Hunt, which allowed him to wield the mask so that he could go into the suit to save her life. We have the way that we built up the Asteri to be these unkillable monsters, and literally 4 of them were swallowed by a black hole. One of my main issues with the end of this book is that it went super sci-fi, but it didn't make any sense. And it was Bryce kind of like explaining everything away, like, oh my god, yeah, like the sword and the dagger made me realize that I can make a black hole, so I made a black hole inside a black hole so that my black hole would suck up the other black hole, and then the world wouldn't be sucked up by a black hole. And I was like, are you high? Like, I don't know what's happening. We also had like tons of info dumps. We had Celine turning up as a hologram and was like, this is the history of all of the world. And so many instances like that where the information was kind of just given to the characters. The way that Jessica just offered up her backstory to Ethan after being mysterious this entire time, like, was so underwhelming. And we got answers in this book. The answers to Hunt's parentage, the answers to like Jessica's backstory, all disappointing and underwhelming and delivered in just such an unenthusiastic way. I have given this book a very low 4 stars, and I'm thinking now that it should be a 3, but like, it hurts me. It hurts me to rate a Sarah J Maas book a 3, because literally I've rated her books 4 stars before, and upon reread been like, no, this is a 5. And now I'm at the point where I'm thinking of rating a book a 3. And it's sad. Like, it's sad because I just feel like there's something wrong with me. I feel like I'm missing something, but I don't think it's good. And then to be so disappointed, it's like finding your favorite meal ever and then ordering it again and it just not being good. And I don't know what to do with this information. There was also no stakes. Like, I went into this completely unworried. Like I told you guys at the beginning, like, I'm not really worried. I do think there's going to be a death. I think it's going to be Tharion. Tharion was saved from death. We had the resurrection trope again. There wasn't really any Deus Ex Machina, which I know a lot of people really don't like that convenient saving of the day trope. I usually do. There wasn't really any of that in this, which would potentially have saved it for me, even though it would have potentially ruined it for a lot of people. But there was just no stakes at all. I knew that Rune wasn't going to die, even though he thought that he was from the beginning. I knew it wasn't going to happen. Bryce was resurrected, but I knew that Bryce and Hunt weren't going to die either, because it just wasn't going to happen. So I went into this book worried about the crossover and worried that I would hate that the crossover would kind of take over. And actually the crossover is the thing that I minded the least. I don't think it was necessary, and I think it took up far too much page space for what it needed to be. But I don't think this book was good. And there was elements that I loved. Like, I love Rune. I will always love Rune. I love Hunt. I do think that Bryce was acting out of character and was horrible to him for the majority of this, which was really arrogant and rude and unempathetic of her. Lydia is definitely, it was confirmed, she is related to Aelin, which I'm intrigued once again to see how that's going to play out and whether Throne of Glass is going to play more of a part in the crossover as a whole, as opposed to like Lydia just being related to her. But once again, that was convenient, because that was Lydia being like, oh yeah, like, I know that I'm related to this ancient king from another world, which is why I named my son that, and I have like the most powerful fire magic. So I don't know. I did also enjoy, I teared up at a couple of points. One was to do with Connor, and well, the second one was to do with Connor actually, because it was when Bryce was being resurrected and she saw the pack of devils again. I think that that is more to do with my connection to the first book, and the first book being my favorite book of all time, and it really throwing it back to like that, because obviously like book 1 is mainly about Bryce's healing and processing the deaths of like her closest friends and dealing with like the guilt and the trauma of that. So I feel like that is what kind of brought me to tears. And while I didn't mind the reading of it, it did feel very slow and tedious for the last book in a series. It felt super anticlimactic, and my overall thoughts is that I am disappointed and I am underwhelmed. Going from my best book ever to my potentially least favorite Sarah J Maas book is tough. it's tough. And I think, like I said, I'm not sure how this compares to House of Sky and Breath. I do think that even if I enjoyed this, if I decide that I enjoyed this one more than House of Sky and Breath, with this being the last book in a series and being so underwhelming, I feel like knocks it a little bit further, because the second book in a series, like, sometimes you don't expect that much from it, because some of them like can be quite like filler books, which I don't actually mind all that much, but you do expect a lot from the last book in a series, especially the last book of such an epic story arc. And I think that the battle and like the action scenes at the end of House of Earth and Blood were way higher stakes, way more impactful and way more emotive than literally anything that happened in this. We're supposed to believe that the Asteria, these big bad all-powerful creatures, they didn't manage to kill a single person, so that's where I'm at. That was a massive rant. I was gonna come in here not ranting. I was thinking about sitting on my thoughts for a while and coming back later to make sure I had everything. But what came out of my mouth was a massive rant. So I do feel like this is potentially going to be a 3. I'm going to sit with it for a while. I'm going to revisit my core pal rating of it, which is a rating system created by G over at Book Roast that I will link down below if you are unfamiliar with it. But I do hope you guys have enjoyed this vlog. If you've made it this far, please go ahead, let me know your thoughts on House of Flame and Shadow down in my comments. Let me know how you felt, whether you enjoyed this one or whether you were also disappointed by it like I very sadly was. I'm just so upset. Like, I thought that this book was going to put me into a book hangover because it was so good and I couldn't stop thinking about it, but I actually might end up in a book hangover because I'm so depressed that it was so bad. And I say bad like it wasn't a horrible book, but like I've had this discussion before, like a 5-star Sarah J Maas book is higher than like a 5-star random standalone that I read in my mind. So a 3-star Sarah J Maas book is the equivalent. Like the disappointment level is like rating a book 1 star. Like it's not horrible, but it feels horrible to me. So I do hope you guys have enjoyed this vlog if you made it this far. I think next week I'm just doing like a regular weekly reading vlog while I finish off my TBR for February. So do stay tuned for that if you are at all interested. But aside from that, guys, please don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you'll go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.